Hello and welcome to the OKCPS Board Battle, a debate among the candidates seeking to become OKCPS's next Board of Education chairwoman. My name is Trace Savage, and I'm the editor-in-chief of NonDoc.com, an independent journalism publication based here in Oklahoma City. I'm thrilled to be on stage tonight moderating this debate with Cameron Joiner of News 9, which is streaming live on news9.com and the Facebook pages of NonDoc and News 9.
All right, thank you, Trace. We are here on Metro Tech's beautiful campus with all three candidates for chairperson of the Oklahoma City Public Schools School Board. We have Jan Barrick, Paula Lewis, and Nia Spriggs.
Give them a round of applause real quick.
All right, the general election is set for February 11th, and if no candidate receives more than 50% of the votes, then the top two candidates will advance to an April 1st general election.
As we begin, I want to thank all of our partners and sponsors for tonight, starting with Metro Tech. Everybody here has been wonderful to work with. This beautiful facility is amazing, huge resource here in Oklahoma City, and I want to plug their new journalism program that they are working with students here. So Chandler, thank you so much for your student. We have a Northwest Classen student taking some photos for us tonight, so very excited about that.
Yeah.
Perfect, and I want to thank the financial sponsors of NonDoc's 2025 Public Debate Series, including the AARP Oklahoma chapter, the Scholars Strategy Network, and the Oklahoma District Council of the Urban Land Institute. Thank you for believing in public debates.
All right, and we are streaming this live on News 9 right now, so this is a good time to share that link with your friends. And if you're here with us at Metro Tech, go ahead and share that link, like I just said, and then silence your cell phones.
And I do want to say this, we can see everybody because we got the lights up in this room, but please be respectful. Hold your applause till the end of each round of questions. We want people who are watching the live stream to be able to hear. We don't want any disruptions. We do have security here, and if we had to, we'll clear this whole room if people can't behave, but I think we can have a reasonable discussion as Americans here in this room tonight. I want to get to the format tonight. We're going to have opening statements of 90 seconds. We drew numbers earlier for those. We'll have 3 rounds of questions, and then we'll conclude with 90-second closing statements. We drew those numbers earlier, and incumbent chairwoman Paula Lewis will go first, followed by Ms. Spriggs and then Ms. Barrick. Without further ado, Ms. Lewis, the stage is yours. 90 seconds for an opening statement.
Thank you, Trace. Good evening. My name is Paula Lewis, and I want to take a moment to thank NonDoc and Channel 9 for hosting this event tonight. And for those of you who are here or watching online, thank you for engaging. Local elections matter, public education matters, so I appreciate your support in that. I have in here that I wanted to thank my family, but some events today have happened, and as the chair, I thank my family even more. And I really have to say that I'm honored and feel pretty privileged, honestly, that I get to know I get to go to work tomorrow and I come home and my kids come home. And my mom raised me to say that nobody cares what you know until they know that you care, and I need everybody out there to know that I care about every child in this district, and I don't want anything for any kid that I don't want for my kid. And I don't want my kid to go to school in fear. I don't want him to see things that traumatizes him. We have enough aces in Oklahoma. So thank you to my wife, my 2 sons, my daughter-in-law, my bonus daughter, and my soon-to-arrive grandson. For over 30 years, I've built my career as an entrepreneur and occupational therapist, dedicated to helping others thrive. I've had the distinct privilege to bring those skill sets forward to this board. I want every child to thrive. Together, this district has made significant progress. We have reduced Fs. Today, Superintendent Walters said that there is no district in the state of Oklahoma that has made greater progress in moving schools off the F list. Change is already happening in OKCPS, and with steady leadership, which is why I have the endorsement of Mayor Holt, the Chamber, AFT, they know we have to have steadfast, experienced leadership to continue this change and momentum.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Spriggs, 90 seconds opening statement to you.
Hello, I am Nia Spriggs, and I'm running to be your next OKCPS board chair. I'm going to stand up.
Yeah, here we go.
No, so I want to talk to you about a place that I've actually worked at. So what if I told you that there was a school that had 2 to 3 drug busts in the morning, that we actually had students running out of the school and actually literally an attempted suicide before school, that we had students who actually were hiding from us in the ceiling, and one of them dropped through in the principal's office, literally through the drop ceiling. If I told you this story about this school, what would you think the test scores of this school would be? Let me tell you. So last year at this school, they had 43% in reading, and they actually had a 22% in math. And that has gone down way, and that is not their actual standard. But I want to tell you what that is in comparison to what we have at one of our best schools. So this is a school in Houston, and this is one of their worst schools. And so our schools here in Oklahoma City, one of our better schools, Belle Isle, had a 46% in math and a 60% in reading. So they are very close to one of their worst schools is very close to one of our best schools. And so I would tell you at some of our schools that are not performing, we have 89, 88, 80% students in below basic, which is the lowest level. So I am telling you, I'm running for change. I am running to tell you that we can do something different. I have seen it, I have worked in it, and therefore I can lead it. Nia Spriggs, running to be your next OKCPS board chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barrick, 90 seconds to you. Opening statement.
First of all,
Let's turn on that microphone real quick. There we go.
First of all, I would like to thank NonDoc for sponsoring this important conversation. But more importantly, I would like to thank you, the audience, for coming out tonight and showing your support for public education in Oklahoma City. My name is Jan Barrick, and I'm running for the chair of the Oklahoma City Public Schools. And the reason I'm running for the chair is because we have a big problem. Over the past 9 years, Oklahoma City has lost over 1,374 students, and that's just in 1 year. We started out in 2018, we had 617 students leave the Oklahoma City schools. Last year, we had 1,374, or in 2023. Student proficiency rates have gone down. ACT scores have gone down. The Oklahoma City has a problem, and I am the only person on this stage that has a solution. All my career, I have been working to improve Oklahoma schools. First as a special education teacher, when I taught my students with learning disabilities how to make the honor roll. Recently, over the past 30 years, I have taken over 200 schools in the state, the lowest performing schools in the state, and I have improved them, and I've ended up with 4 national Blue Ribbon schools. I've taken the lowest performing schools in the state, and I made them the best in the nation. My schools outperformed the state average by 10%. Elect me as your next chair of the Oklahoma City Public Schools, and our schools, the Oklahoma City schools, will be above the state average.
Thank you very much. And let's give them all a round of applause there. And we've got that fine-looking timekeeper gentleman down there. So let's get to our first round of questions. The opening bell is the title to this round of questions. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer each question. We'll rotate who answers first, and we're going to start alphabetically with you, Ms. Barrick. Cameron, you have the first question.
All right, this one is a 2-part question to you first, Ms. Barrick. What is the single biggest issue facing the Oklahoma City Public Schools district, and what is a school-specific issue that you are personally passionate about? And again, you have 60 seconds to answer.
The biggest problem in the Oklahoma City schools is the proficiency rate of the students. We are graduating students from the Oklahoma City Public Schools that can't read on grade level and can't do math on grade level. My expertise is turning around Oklahoma schools. I have spent 30 years taking the lowest performing schools to the top, and I can do it for the Oklahoma City Public Schools. I'm the only one that has the solution to the problem.
All right, Ms. Lewis, you have 60 seconds to answer as well.
Thank you. Today, the single biggest issue facing OKCPS district is the fear of federal freezing of funds as of Monday. That's the biggest fear today and the biggest issue. Prior to that, our biggest issue was chronic absenteeism. We're weighted heavily on chronic absenteeism, and that is where we are struggling to remove the rest of our schools off of the F list. My biggest goal as the chair is to provide institute for a change model, to support that change model, but mostly to do my role as the chair and not the role of the superintendent. I have no intention to micromanage the superintendent on curriculum or teaching models, because that solely falls on the role of the superintendent, and that's distracting from teaching our kids. And that is a model that is an adult issue, not a kid issue. And I want our district to face kid issues head on and only do things that help children learn.
Okay, Ms. Spriggs, 60 seconds to you.
Yes, so I agree with that. The biggest issue is chronic absenteeism, and we actually have a plan to increase absenteeism in that we are going to develop systems. We are going to develop systems to bring in plans and bring in outside help and things like that. But my single biggest issue is academic achievement. When we do not allow the students to achieve, when we do not push the students to their maximum in potential, then we are basically making decisions for them. And I want everybody to understand that if a child did not have chemistry and biology, it's going to be very difficult for them to become an engineer, for them to become a scientist in college, so in life as well. So while we need to increase academic achievement, all these issues are very important, including chronic absenteeism and actually the freezing of federal funds. We actually have to focus down on academic achievement.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Lewis, I've got the next question for you. If you want to scoot that mic just a little, there we go. I think your plosives were picking up. That's a fun word out there for you Googling at home. I have this question. You answered it a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway. You're seeking a third term as chairperson of this board, and I'm curious how you specifically define the role of board chairperson, and what do you say when voters express dissatisfaction with the district's direction, morale, and performance over the last decade?
The role of the chair is to, according to our policy, is to speak for the board once the board has spoken. The board, as a whole body, is designed to provide oversight and governance to the district, and to hire a superintendent and to evaluate them and to manage the superintendent. It's been a long time, Trace, since we've had people express dissatisfaction with the culture and where we're moving in this district. We just ran a series of 6 listening sessions, and as a rule, people know that we are trying our best to move the needle for kids, and we are moving the needle for kids. And I take affront to people saying that all of our kids are failing. Our kids are not failing. We've had kids go to the Naval Academy on full rides. We have, my bonus daughter is a National Merit Commended out of OKCPS. We are not a failing district. And that's what I tell people, is we need to tell the whole story. And I would honestly ask my opponents if they've actually asked the plan of what we're doing, or they're just trying to put a plan in and they don't even know what we're doing right now.
Thank you very much, Ms. Spriggs. 60 seconds to you. How do you define that role of the chairperson, and what do you say if you hear voters talk about, some dissatisfaction with the district?
Right, because I understand the role of the board chair very well, and while I understand that I will not be the superintendent, and there is a superintendent and she's doing a good job, that we need to put a plan together that's going to take us. At one point, we had 20 superintendents over 22 years, so we need to sit down, develop a commission that will take us over a long Asian model plan. And while I understand that I will not be the superintendent, we need to sit down and bring the greatest minds of OKC. There are people in OKC that have worked with the same population and have achieved greatness. And so we need to bring all these people to the table and help Ms. Polk develop a plan. And I understand that she is very capable of doing it, but to have one person doing it is not going to probably achieve the goals that and I'm talking about exponential growth. I'm not talking about slight growth. I'm talking about real growth, real change within OKCPS. And that is the reason why I want to put a commission together, so therefore we can bring all these minds together and develop a real long-term plan.
Wonderful. Ms. Barrick, 60 seconds to you. Same question. How do you define the role of the board chairperson? What do you say to voters who might have some dissatisfaction with the district?
The role of the chair of the board is oversight. I agree with that. And it's also about accountability for what is happening in the schools. And when you talk about dissatisfaction in the Oklahoma City Public Schools, I think there is dissatisfaction in the Oklahoma City schools, because year after year, they've had a 5-year plan. And for 5 years, they've had a plan to improve Oklahoma City Public Schools. Our dropout rate has gone down, gone up, our graduation rate has gone down. Our proficiency rate has gone down, and our ACT scores have gone down. Dr. Polk is a very outstanding superintendent. I worked with her. I trained her how to improve schools. I was her facilitator when she turned around the Cleveland Public School in Lawton, Oklahoma. I was her facilitator. I trained her. We'll be a great team.
Thank you very much. Cameron, you have the next question for Ms. Spriggs first.
Yes, Trace, we've touched on this a couple times already, a few of our candidates, but Oklahoma City Public Schools proficiency rates continue to lag behind much of the state, and Oklahoma ranks, near the bottom of the nation. So for English language, our students statewide are scoring about 45% proficient, while OKCPS students are about 27% proficient. For math, the difference was similar, 41% to 22%. So imagine that you're leading the school board and a parent comes to you and says, my child is not doing well in reading or math, we're thinking of transferring. What would be your response to them, and how would you handle that situation?
Well, my response for them would be that I would hope that they would stay in the district. That is the goal. I mean, of course, if they have the problem is that the difference between the application schools and the general neighborhood schools are just vast. And it should not be. In other states and other urban areas, the difference may be 800 students are proficient versus 700. So there's a small difference, but if they get in an application school, it does not mean we're picking winners and losers. So, I mean, I really do, that's the reason why I've had an issue with trying to get my children in school and trying to get the outcomes that I would like. My son scored perfect on the state test twice and got turned down at the application schools. So and then there are some families who cannot drive to the application schools. So while I really understand the plight that they're in and so I'm asking them to give us a chance. I'm asking them to stay with us because there are some great teachers, some great principals, some great leaders in this district. We just need the proper leadership and the proper plan to help them move forward. And I'm going to ask them to give us some time so therefore we can try to make that work.
All right, thank you. Ms. Barrick, we've got 60 seconds for the same question. How would you handle a situation where a parent is thinking of transferring because their child is not performing where they need to be in reading or math?
This is what I would do if I had a parent that came to me right now and said that they're thinking of leaving the school district because of low proficiency rates and chronic absenteeism. I would say, give me 1 year. Give me 1 year and I'll fix it. And I will turn the 27% proficiency rate into a 30 to 35% proficiency rate. My schools had a 40 to 45% proficiency rate, and the Oklahoma City Public Schools will have the same proficiency rate when I'm the chairman of the board.
All right.
Give me a chance. Give me 1 year, and then make your decision. In 1 year, you will have better outcomes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Barrick. Ms. Lewis, same question to you, 60 seconds. How would you handle this situation?
I've had a real life situation a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, not about transferring, but calling to ask how the best way to ensure their child received the quality education that they deserved in Oklahoma City Public Schools. What I did was I called each parent, listened to them, spoke to them as a mom, because as a parent in this district, I bring a unique perspective that I understand the hopes and fears of parents. And we talked through it. I wrote notes. I said, I'm going to send an email to Superintendent Polk and her team. They will get back with you. If you have not heard back with them within a week, please let me know. I sent that on to Superintendent Polk's team, which is the role of the chair, and they got an email back quickly that said, we're addressing this. Thank you, Chair Lewis, for bringing this to our attention. That is the role of the board. I don't get to go fix those issues.
Thank you very much. I do have a follow-up question. We'll call this the first toss-up follow-up of the night, which means I'm going to give each of you 60 seconds to answer it however you see fit. These conversations are, especially and including here in Northeast Oklahoma City, are, they underscore some of the push for more school choice, more options. And so, as I said, I've got the first follow-up of the night, the first toss-up of the night. How should OKCPS position itself amid the city's well-funded push for more charter schools? I know there's issues related to building contracts, whether they might be sold, but there's a push for more charter schools. And I'm curious, any of you can start, 60 seconds. How should OKCPS as a governance body position itself? Anybody can answer. I guess I've stunned. It's an
Anyone can
important
hop in.
conversation.
No, okay, so I'll just go first. So I understand that we cannot, you know, it is going to be a unique position, and this is something different that I am talking about when I'm talking about working with the board and things like that to actually enact change and not just sitting back and just hoping that change comes to me. So I understand that that is a unique position. I understand that that may step on some toes. I do. And I understand I'm not going to be a king. We'll have to work with people. But on the charter schools, I mean, we have to give people the best options. So we can't just, while I would love for them to stay, you know, okay, let me get back to my thoughts. Okay, so the charter schools, they are very important in this district, and we're going to have charter schools. To say that the charter schools are going away is just not a very realistic position. And so we need to work with the charter schools, the ones that we are approving. I am glad that we actually approve these up under the Oklahoma City umbrella, Oklahoma City Public School umbrella. So therefore, they're not just some of the best and the brightest students are just leaving the district. So we have to just manage that and work with them to ensure the best outcomes for the students.
60 seconds. Ms. Lewis, I see you reaching for the microphone.
Sure. I believe parents have the right to choose, and my board does as well. They've shown that by how they vote. Charter schools are what our community has asked for, but they also continue to ask for traditional public schools. We support that. Our position as a district under Dr. Jamie Polk is that if a charter school is doing something better than us, they're serving kids better, we want to learn from them. If a charter school is not serving kids in the manner we're serving kids, they need to learn from us. We will always be open to the parents' choice because that is their right, and it's never going to go away. We can go back for generations and look at, pluralism of education in America. It exists. Some people want to homeschool their kids. Some people homeschool their kids because they feel like their kids feel safer there, others because it's for religious reasons. People pick charter schools because of particular religious reasons or it's closer to their neighborhood. We will never stop or fight against parent choice. We will always fight to be first choice because we believe that diversity in our district is our strength, and it is what will allow us to become the first choice across the city. And contrary to what my opponents are saying right now, we are moving the needle that way. I have all the facts. If anybody wants to come up with me, we have not increased in F schools, and we have not decreased in enrollment since the pandemic. We've actually increased. So yes, parents have choice. We want them to have choice, but we want them to choose us first.
That's a great reminder that the Metro Tech journalism students are going to help us check some of those facts tonight. So Chandler, make sure you're taking a timestamp at 6:07 p.m. Ms. Barrick, close us out, 60 seconds. How should OKCPS position itself among the push for more charter schools?
Okay, let's just, side note here. When we compare this year's F schools to last year's F schools, that's not a comparison. The reason we can't compare last year's schools, failing schools, to this year's failing schools is because the cut scores changed. We cannot, it's a different, we have lowered the cut scores, we have had great inflation, so when you start saying we have less F schools, well, yeah, we do, because we've lowered the bar. We have great inflation. Charter schools are about choice. And the reason we have charter schools is because the Oklahoma City schools have failed students year after year after year. Charter schools give parents the choice. Charter schools are about competition. When I'm the chairman of the board, we will be bringing charter school students back to the Oklahoma City public schools because they're going to beat the charter schools. That's called competition, and that's how you do it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Barrick. To end round one, I have one more toss-up question, but we're going to keep the answers to 30 seconds for this one. Over the next 4 years, how would you move the needle on health for students or staff? And anyone can start?
Any way,
Yep.
any possible
Yes.
conceived goal or push to improve health
Yeah.
for students or staff?
We will continue the work we're doing, whether it be through the Embrace OKC initiative for our mental wellness and mental health services, or through our partnership with OU, where we have every school has access to a teletherapy medicine to help kids get quicker access to health care, as well as staff. We also, Embrace OKC also includes help with staff for their mental wellness, and of course we have the employee assistant programs that are also available, and we will always provide quality health insurance to our staff.
All right, Ms. Barrick or Ms. Spriggs?
You want me to go
30
first?
seconds.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the health of students. Not only do we have the issue of physical health, we have the issue of mental health. And we have to make sure that our students go to school in a safe and secure environment. And that's one way you improve mental health of the students. We also need to improve, I think every school in this state, in Oklahoma City has a school nurse. We need to ensure that those school nurses are serving the students and meeting their needs.
Yes, and while I do understand, we do have a serious problem with like behavior and things like that. And actually, most of that stems from the children coming to school with more baggage than what they came to school with when we came. And so one of the things I want to do for the teachers is we want a concrete plan to actually improve behavior for the teachers, because I'm a teacher, and most of the teachers I talk to are constantly talking about the classroom environment and the behavior and things like that. So that is one plan that I actually am going to work with to actually improve the classroom environment, which will help the teachers and help the students as well.
Thank you very much. That concludes the first round of questions. Let's give them all a round of applause. This isn't easy up here, so good job, everybody. And as we get to our second round of questions, it's titled Inputs and Outcomes. Cameron's going to step off stage for a moment, and please welcome NonDoc Education reporter Sasha Dissaby. She's doing triple duty tonight. She covered the State Board of Education meeting earlier. She's taking notes back there to write a recap of this debate, and she has the next toss-up question for us in round two.
Thanks, Trace, and hello, everyone. We were just talking about community health, and I wanted to start this round with another toss-up question discussing a basic requirement for having a healthy family: housing. 60 seconds to anyone. Anyone can answer first. How does housing insecurity impact educational outcomes in OKCPS, and what is the most important thing OKCPS can do to support students facing housing challenges?
Yes, so I think this is a very unique thing to me, because I've actually have students who have been homeless because they have not been able to maintain themselves in a traditional school environment. So we have to provide wraparound services and things for this population. We know that students are coming to school with more baggage than normal, so we have to provide those wraparound services, and there are agencies and people in the city who actually could help us with that. It's just about tapping into those services, because we cannot have students who have housing issues. They're not going to make very good students when they don't have a place to go home to at night.
Thank you very much. Same question, 60 seconds. Anybody else?
Yes. Housing insecurity severely affects many of our children, and we see that in the high transitory rate of how many schools kids will show up at. It's one of the very reasons that we always will have a white uniform shirt, is so that kids feel like they fit in when they get to the next school. You can't, Bloom's taxonomy, you can't get to your best educating your learning brain if you're constantly in fear of where you're going to be that night, if you don't know what it's going to be like. I work with kids all day as an occupational therapist, and I can tell you, I talk to kids who, when they move, they're like, Miss Paula, there's a bunch of roaches in my room this time. How could my son learn like that? So how we do it is we do not judge. We do not point this out to any student in front of other people, but we have a dedicated staff that is designed to go and find those students, help them get what they need, whether it be a laundry so they can have clean clothes, make sure they have food, our backpack services, our mental wellness wraps around them. We definitely have an issue, but we are addressing that issue.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Housing challenges are a problem. They're an issue in Oklahoma City, and they're an issue with the Oklahoma City Public Schools. The Oklahoma City Public Schools should work with other agencies in the city to help the students that have housing challenges. But one thing that the public schools can do, when the student walks into that classroom, that student needs to be safe and needs to be secure. And no matter what the challenges are outside the classroom, when he comes to school, when he goes into that classroom, he needs to feel safe and secure. And that's one thing that the public schools can do with the housing challenges in Oklahoma City.
Thank you all. That's a really important topic, and there's some good conversation there. For the rest of this round, candidates are going to have 90 seconds to answer each question. And Sasha, you've got your final question of the night to start with Ms. Lewis.
All right, Chairwoman, this school year, the OKCPS student-teacher ratio for many grades increased to pre-pandemic and pre-Pathway to Greatness levels. We know the conclusion of some federal pandemic-era funding exacerbated this, but the legislature put $214 million into the state funding formula to limit the impact. We hear from parents and teachers who want to know, what is the district doing to relocate resources and bring that ratio back down for next school year?
Thank you for that question. And yes, the ESSER cliff was actually slated to affect our class sizes more dramatically. When Superintendent Polk took the helm, she did an immediate right-sizing or downsizing, however you want to call it, of administrative and cabinet-level positions, and she was able to ensure that our pre-K through first grade or second grade were going to be between 20 and 22 classes. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have some out there that have 24, 25, because kids come in and out of our district daily, but we made that immediate change. Third grade, we're still struggling to keep that reasonable, but we are working at it, and we are communicating with all of our partners. We're bringing in everybody we can to look and see how we can better utilize our funds in order to do that. One way we are being able to do this is we passed the largest bond in state history at $955 million, which takes pressure off the general fund, which allows us to pay for more teachers in classrooms and more supplies.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Spriggs, next to you, what should the district do to improve teacher-student ratios?
We need to improve the teacher-student ratios. We need to actually, one of the things, this is actually a problem at one of the schools that I actually spoke with, in that they were not funded at the right student count this year. And so they had 800 students show up, and they actually only got funded for 550 students per one of the people there, one of the teachers there. And so they have some students with large class sizes and things like that. So we need to make sure that we are funding the schools with the right number of funding allotments and things like that for the schools. And then we're gonna have to actually recruit some great teachers. I mean, to try to alleviate this, I mean, we actually have teachers who are not in the classroom and things for a multitude of reasons. My friends are calling me and said their teacher left and things like that. So, and there are actually teachers who are on retirement who are saying, my retire date is November the 11th. And I'm like, November the 11th? I mean, that's an odd time to retire. But because of some of the problems in the behavior and things in the classroom, we have not been able to get some of these teachers to stay around even through the end of the school year. So I believe that when we build better schools and we build better communities, I think that more teachers will want to stay here with us. And I believe that we could change that swing, and that where we could get more teachers to stay with us and decrease those class sizes, because that is important. I was looking at the school district that I was speaking about earlier. Their class sizes were like 20. So we need to get that number down dramatically.
Thank you so much. Barrick, same question.
Okay.
What should the district do to improve student-teacher ratios?
Student-teacher ratios is directly related and connected to the budget. Last year, Oklahoma City Public Schools lost $42 million in ESSER funds. The solution was, oh, we'll make it up in general funds. Oklahoma City lost $2 million at midterm adjustments. It's all about how we use the money. We are not using the money wisely. When I am the chairman of the Oklahoma City Public Schools, we will scrutinize every single penny. We will have accountability for every single penny. We should not have a student-teacher ratio like it is when we have the money. It's not the money, it's how we spend the money.
Thank you very much. Sasha, thank you so much. That's the end of your question asking for the night. And now I'll see your recap first thing at midnight. Cameron, thank you so much for coming back to the stage. You have the next question. It's going to go to Ms. Spriggs first.
All right, thank you, Trace. Now, it would not be an education debate in Oklahoma without discussing Superintendent of Public Instruction Ryan Walters and some comments that he made today that are making headlines. So Walters had already announced that he wants to require public schools to collect and report lists of undocumented students enrolled in each district, and he has voiced support for ICE raids in Oklahoma public schools. And after today's State Board of Education meeting, he took things a step further, saying that he supports efforts to identify public school parents who may be undocumented. So again, to you first, Ms. Briggs, what is your opinion on Walters' statements regarding immigration, and would you push back against ICE raids inside OKCPS schools to check citizenship or carry out deportations of students or their parents?
It is my hope. I actually have talked to Superintendent Ryan Walters about trying to improve education outcomes, because I'm willing to work with anybody on any side of the aisle to actually improve outcomes. As to this, I actually really thought about that, because if we lose, every student we lose because they're not coming to school anymore, which some friends of mine said that many students have not been to school this week. I want everybody to understand, when we're talking about students not coming to school, we're talking about teachers losing jobs. We're talking about administrators staffs losing jobs and things like that. And while I recognize that there is a problem with immigration, that does not need to stop at our doorstep of our schools. We had some students who have actually been left here and their parents have actually gone back to Mexico or wherever they came from. That means those students are going to be there with less support, less services, and we're going to have to provide even more services for them. So I think that we're not thinking about all the actual snow hill, like the mountain of problems that is going to actually come from this. So while it is important, immigration is important. I know everybody's on immigration. This is Oklahoma. It's a red state. I understand that. But please leave the schools out of this. Whatever you all are going to do this somewhere else, because and in many cases, the students are actually citizens of this country. So therefore, they're going to be here. We're going to have them. And what is it going to look like when we're losing teachers because they're not coming to school, and then we're losing funding because, and then they're losing support because they are actually here staying with a relative or someone else. It's not going to be good for the city or Oklahoma City Public Schools.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Spriggs. Ms. Barrick, next up, you're going to have 90 seconds. Again, what is your opinion on Walter's statements regarding immigration, and would you push back against ICE coming into OKCPS schools to conduct citizenship checks or deportations?
I would definitely not support ICE coming into the public schools and searching the students' lockers. That is not necessary. That adds to the problem. When outside people come in to the schools, that's when they feel unsafe. Right. That's when they feel insecure. So I am definitely not for ICE coming in and taking over and searching the schools' lockers. But if we need to report undocumented citizens, there is another way, another plan, and that's when they enroll. When students enroll, if they want to know about citizenship or immigration, legal immigration, that could happen at the enrollment, during the enrollment, period. And that would not disturb the classes, that would not make students feel unsafe or insecure. So if that is necessary, then I think it should be done during the enrollment period.
I guess a quick question would be, do you consider it necessary? You sort of couched that as if it's
Okay,
necessary.
do I consider it necessary? Well, first of all, let me say this. Every student in the United States has access to free, equitable, and equal education. And it doesn't matter if they're legal or not legal. Every student has access, has the ability to attend a public school that has adequate and equal education.
So, but is checking that enrollment is checking that status of parents and students necessary at enrollment? You sort of said if it were, you could do it then. Do you think it should be?
If we have to do it, enrollment is the place to do it. Should we do it? I don't think it's necessary, and I agree with Mrs. Spriggs. We shouldn't interrupt the students. Let's do it somewhere else. Let's not do it at the school level. We can do it somewhere else.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Sorry I cut you off there, but I wanted to get some clarification. Let's give you 90 seconds. We'll give you 100 seconds to answer that question.
First, I just want to say I'm proud of the incredible diversity in OKCPS. We have 59% of our students are Hispanic, 19% are Black, 12% are white, 2 are Native American, and the rest are Asian and multiracial. I was sitting next to a board member from Clinton. 58% of Clinton students are Hispanic. So when we talk about harmful rhetoric saying that we're going to raid schools, I know for a fact raids aren't going to happen because that's not what happens, because there's warrants, there's things you have to check. If it happened, if they sent someone to the school, their warrant has to be very specific on what they're gonna get. But it's the rhetoric that is hurting kids. We already have enough ACEs in the state of Oklahoma. We've got to stop that rhetoric. Do I agree with checking document or citizenship status? 100% I do not, because constitutionally we don't have to do it. And that is the position that our district has set. Until the federal law changes, we will adhere to the federal law. It's harmful to kids. It would be harmful to my son if he had to watch someone taken away from his school that was his friend. We have to start thinking about these kids, no matter what their skin color is. The melanin in their skin, it doesn't matter. They have the same color heart, they have the same color blood, they have the same bone structure, they have the same amount of bones, they have all of these things. So it doesn't matter where their legal immigration status is when it comes to education. If the federal law changes, we'll have to take a different stance. But until that time, I absolutely vehemently oppose to doing this.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Spriggs, I'll give you 15 seconds. I kind of asked them to be yes or no. Do you think it's necessary to check this? I want to see yes or no. Do you think it's necessary to check immigration?
And also, they were both very clear about being against ICE raids in schools, and I feel like we didn't really touch on that in your answer. So in that 15 seconds, if you want to give us kind of your clear stance on that as well.
Yes, I am absolutely against ICE raids in school. There is no need to have children terrorized in school. I have students who are from other countries right now in my class, and they were crying today. And they've been crying since November. And I had to explain to them that I actually had to bring counselors and things in for them, and that is not the type of environment. And then the students who actually voted for Trump was like, well, can we take our votes back? Because, we don't want our friends to be taken away. So it just provides too much trauma to students, and we do not need that.
Excellent. I've got a 30-second hand raise, so I'm going to ask you, raise your hand if you're yes, keep your hand down if you're no. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer it. One of Superintendent Walter's other controversial statements and proposals is a mandate for inclusion of Bibles in every classroom. There's a bit of a nebulous description of what every means. Raise your hand if you think that is a good idea. Okay, 30 seconds to each of you. Why are you not in favor of that? And what is OKCPS maybe currently doing?
Well, I'll just go. I do not think that the Bible's in the classroom. We need to focus on adding, subtraction, multiplication, division, and reading. We need to get back to the basics. When we get the children and everybody's reading on grade level and things like that, if we want to have a high level OBU type of psychology or history of religion or something like that, then we can have a conversation. But we do not need to have every teacher in a classroom teaching the Bible. We need to adding, subtraction, multiplication, division, reading. We need to get back to the basics.
Thank you very much. 30 seconds to either of you.
I agree 100% with what Nia said. The Bible is a historical document. It is already in standards. We already teach that. But that is not the purpose of what's going on in our schools. We are graded on the key performance indicators of chronic absenteeism, ELPA assessment, achievement, growth, chronic absenteeism. That's what we need to be focused on. And that requires learning to read before third grade and reading to learn after that and learning to do math. When we had our listening sessions across this district, it didn't matter if I was at Spencer or was at Quail Creek or was at U.S. Grant, hand after hand after hand raised and said, I do not want teachers teaching my kid the Bible. I'm religious and I'm Christian, but I want my teachings and what I believe to be what my children is learning at school. So this is not about anti-Christianity, it's about what parents said. Parents said no.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barrick, 30 seconds to you.
Well, first of all, I don't think there was ever a rule that said we couldn't have Bibles in the classroom. When I was a teacher, I read Bible stories to my students every single day. But I do agree that I don't think anybody wants teachers or undesignated people to teach the Bible. I don't think anybody wants that. But I think Bibles in the classroom, I don't think there was ever anybody that said we couldn't have Bibles in the classroom. We're just bringing them back. There's more emphasis in bringing them back.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barrick. I've got the next question for you. We're going to go from Bibles to bonds. In late 2022, voters in the OKCPS district approved a massive $955 million bond package, primarily for building projects and some other equipment and type things. Some folks worried that these building projects were unlikely to move the needle on student achievement, despite their hefty price tag. And now there seems to be some discussion or concern that perhaps the so-called flex spaces, which were pitched as part of buildings having more flexible workforce development programs, things of that nature, could be delayed. They could be changed just to be more reflective of general classrooms. So I'm curious, Ms. Barrick, were you supportive of the $955 million bond package? And is there anything you would try to do differently on the projects if you're elected chairwoman?
Absolutely. I always vote in favor of public education whenever there's a bond. But let's talk about the bond issue in Oklahoma City. The bond issue in Oklahoma City was to upgrade and rebuild our schools that we have. It's all about bricks and mortar. And we're going to have the finest schools in Oklahoma, the finest schools in the nation. We're going to have the best athletic school fields in the nation. Now it's time for us to have the best educated schools in the nation. So when we start looking at the bond issue, the largest bond issue in the state history, we need to start putting more emphasis on student outcomes and student education than we do on bricks and mortars.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lewis. Same question to you. Well, I guess it wouldn't be anything you would do differently, but talk to us a little bit about those flex spaces I talked about and where things are with the bond issue. What do you say to folks who are concerned that that might not move the needle?
The flex spaces, which are now called college and career readiness spaces, are moving along on time and on target. What we're working hard at is getting the curriculum right from a district level. Superintendent and her team have went through worked with the chamber to see what the highest paying jobs are you can get you get out of high school, what you need to be able to access a high job in the military, if that so be your choice, so you can do good on your ASVAB, or get into the best college you want to get, so that we can provide access to career opportunities for every child across our district. They're moving along on time. What's not going to happen, and if Dr. Polk was standing right here, because we believe in transparency in this district, is we will not have every program that we will ever have in those spaces off the ground by fall of 2026, because we can't do too much at one time. We're working with Metro Tech, we're working with Superintendent Collins, we're gonna have that in. What those flex spaces allow for us for college and career readiness, we have the partnership already with Metro Tech, but if our kids come to Metro Tech, they don't get back there to be able to participate in extracurricular activities. They can't play football or basketball or baseball. All the things that we know keep children in school and increase their times of not being absent. So yes, they're on time. They're 100% on time. The only thing we've had so far that has just had a little bit of a move of what we thought was going to happen was the Belle Isle High School. But that's coming off the ground in fall of 2027, and we've already addressed that with those parents.
Thank you very much. Ms. Friggs, 90 seconds, your thoughts on this bond package and anything you might try to do differently if elected.
Yeah, so while, I am in favor of the bond. So I'm in favor of the bond. We were losing students when they come from middle school to high school just because there's not enough seats at Class and SAS to actually get all the students that are coming out of our middle school charter schools. So, and I understand, my neighbors in Quail Creek are furious because some of them did not get in to some of the charter schools and things like that in middle school. And I actually know a family in Nichols Hills who is driving because they didn't get into the charter school, and in both cases, they were too late for Cassidy and Heritage Hall, so now they're driving to Norman. So we actually do need these type of, we actually do need this high school in Belle Isle and the other high school and other schools are being built. So I am in favor of that. What I would like to say is that we cannot have the same education with new buildings, When we built John Marshall, we zoned Nichols Hills, Quail Creek, and things like that to John Marshall, and the students did not actually come back that we were actually told that would come back. So in that, we need to actually dramatically increase the educational outcomes at these schools, so therefore we would be the school of first choice. I want there to be a line for people to get into these schools, and I hate to say we have to turn people away, but I'd like it to be a very thing where people actually want to come to these new schools that we're building, so therefore the taxpayers can feel like that they're getting what they're paying for. Once they see that, then we will not have so many complaints about the bond issues.
Well, I grew up in Norman, and somebody I grew up with drove to Oklahoma City to go to class in SAS. That's neither here nor there. Thank you so much, Cameron. You have the final question this round, which is a hand raiser on something that's the legislature is considering this year.
Yes, thank you, Trey. So at least 8 states in the U.S. have enacted measures to ban cell phones in schools. So because Oklahoma City Public Schools doesn't have a district-wide policy on cell phones, each site has its own rules. We're curious to know whether you would support a statewide or a district-wide bell-to-bell ban on cell phones inside schools. So just raise your hand if you would support a ban like that. Oh, all right. Okay, so we'll start with you, Ms. Lewis. We'll go with 30 seconds for your response.
If that's what the legislature says we do, and that becomes law, and we have a plan for it, and I am confident that our superintendent will have a plan that works for everybody. I have a child in this district, so I realize I'm saying, son, you won't have your cell phone during school. But honestly, that's not his job anyway. He told me not 3 weeks ago, Mom, I've got to do better at not looking at my phone. That's why I haven't been getting my assignments done. So these are real things, and so that is why I would support that.
But do you, let's say the legislature doesn't pass it, would you be in favor of a district-wide, or are you comfortable with the current school-by-school policy?
I think if you look at the data that comes out of screen time with kids and how that's affecting their mental wellness, yes, I think we probably do need to look at that. Our district is already looking at that. I'm expecting a recommendation within probably the next year to come in front of the board for that very thing, because it is important that we address the wellness of our children's mental health, and we know that screen time is affecting their ability to focus and their ability to not feel depressed and hopeless.
Hey, Ms. Barrick, Ms. Briggs, who would like to go next? We'll have 30 seconds. And
I'll go next.
Okay, and
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jen.
and just like Ms. Lewis was talking about, let's hear kind of your personal stance also on the
Okay.
cell phone ban.
Okay, let's talk about cell phone bans. Cell phone bans are a distraction. Cell phones are a distraction. If we ban cell phones, then we will ban a distraction. So personally, I am against cell phones in the classroom. But here's the real answer. The real answer is about teachers choosing. If I were a teacher, I would say, when you come into this classroom, you put your cell phone in the basket. When you leave this classroom, you can pick up the cell phone. So I think it should be an individual teacher's choice whether we have cell phones or not. I think that the schools and the city should chime in, but ultimately it's the teachers that can control the use of cell phones in their classroom.
All right, thank you, Ms. Barrick. I'll pass it over to you, Ms. Briggs, for 30 seconds.
Yes, and cell phones are a distraction. So I'm not going to play like they're not. I have 5 kids, so I truly understand. I took my son's cell phone today because he did not have all his work done. So I truly understand it. But I will say that in my school, we actually use the cell phone. So if they come to me and they ask me a question, I immediately say, tell me what the definition are. Tell me what the definition is, and things like that. So we have to be able to use the cell phone. The cell phones are here. This is 2025. And so can we use the cell phones in a responsible way to where we can get students to learn on the cell phones and things like that. I actually make my students text me in complete sentences when they're going to turn in an assignment and things like that. So we have to use it in a responsible way.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Ms. Briggs.
Thank you very much. I love it. We're getting these young men put on blast about getting their homework done. I think we're going to have that. That's the end of round 2. Give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. And we're going to go into our 3rd round. It's our final round. It's titled This Isn't Recess. And this is where we're going to kind of ask political questions about your campaigns and why people should or shouldn't vote for you. We'll give you each 90 seconds if the question... Let me try that again. We're going to ask the question to you as an individual candidate. We'll give you 90 seconds to answer. Your opponents will then get 45 seconds each to respond, and then we'll come back to you for a closing 45 seconds. That might be a little confusing, but good news, Cameron has a hand raiser first.
If this race heads to a runoff on April 1st, will you commit to participating in the runoff? Go ahead and raise your hand if you will.
In a runoff debate, I'm sorry.
Runoff debate, sorry. That was my fault. A runoff
Well,
debate.
that's a different story.
There we go. Take a picture.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Ms. Lewis, as incumbent chairwoman, I'm going to ask you this question first. and you probably have thought that somebody wanted to ask you about it. Superintendent Sean McDaniel stepped down as the superintendent of OKCPS last year, and his resignation letter led some people to believe that your 6-year working relationship together had deteriorated to some level owing to some sort of conflict. And you would know more about that than me, so I don't want to speculate on it, but with no slight to Dr. Polk, his successor, many OKCPS stakeholders considered Mr. McDaniel's departure to be a major loss. So what do you tell voters if they come up to you and they express frustration that the board ultimately had things become unworkable with Dr. McDaniel? 90 seconds to you.
Yes, you're right. I would have been surprised if that question didn't happen. Dr. McDaniel served as superintendent for 6 years, which is twice the national average of an urban superintendency. That is a testament to his leadership and his commitment. During his time with OKCPS, he did a phenomenal job with operations, overseeing significant improvements across the district, navigating the challenges of the pandemic, and implementation of a $955 million bond that will be in history for a long, long time. As for his resignation letter, Dr. McDaniel is the one who wrote it and the only one who knows the name of the board member he referenced. Personnel matters are sensitive and they're protected, and out of respect for the confidentiality of those discussions and respect for the law, and to not put the district at risk, I'm simply going to say that his contributions to our district were significant, and I wish him the very best in his future endeavors.
You've talked about the role of board chair, just real quick, 15 seconds. Was that part of it? Was there I know both of you, and that conversation was powerful for 6 years, but was there some discussion about the role of board and superintendent?
There's a constant conversation about the role of the superintendent and the board. Ultimately, as the chair, you are the one that delivers the communication from the board, individual board members to the superintendent on most times, and from the community. Over the last couple of years, we had some concerns from our community coming forth, whether it be the Capitol Hill High School situation, we're looking at that, or charters and putting them into our bond. There were several things that were honestly pretty hard conversations, and as an Open Records Act showed, in an email to him, I said, this board very much values alignment with the superintendent, but will not value that alignment over its responsibility to its constituents and the community.
Thank you very much. Ms. Spriggs, 45 seconds to you. What have you heard from the public about Dr. McDaniel's departure?
Well, I actually spoke to Dr. McDaniel. So it is not just from the public. There are concerns from the public about Dr. McDaniel's departure. Jason Brown, and Dr. McDaniel said that his success was not his success. It was mostly due to Jason Brown. So he was very honest. And there are some people who came back to OKCPS because of Jason. So it was not just the loss of Dr. McDaniel, but also Jason Brown. So we lost a lot, and it is very scary. We're in uncharted times in that we have to try to see if we can continue the improvements that we made under Dr. McDaniels and Jason Brown. So that is an issue, and I am very concerned about that.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barrick, same question to you. What do you hear from public about that topic?
Well, all I know is that I have talked to Sean McDaniels more than once, and I have talked about his 5-year plan. 5-year plan to improve Oklahoma City Public Schools. Over the last 5 years, the Oklahoma City Public Schools have not increased. They have either remained the same or decreased. So obviously their 5-year plan did not work. I think we're almost at the end of the 5-year plan. I was talking to a school board member the other day, and they said, well, we have another 5-year plan. Well, that's interesting. So is the new 5-year plan going to have the same results as the previous 5-year plan? That's my question.
Thank you very much. Back to you, Ms. Lewis, to close, 45 seconds.
The same question.
On that, if anything you want to respond to statements they said. If not, we can go forward.
Yep, I'm good on that.
Thank you very much. Cameron, you have the next question for Ms. Spriggs.
Yes, this will be for Ms. Spriggs. You'll have 90 seconds to respond. Your LinkedIn profile shows a very professional career with 9 different employers over the last 20 years, culminating in your creation of NEAT Education Solutions in 2023. So this is kind of a 2-part question. First, do you believe that your work with NEAT as a micro school poses any conflict of interest for your service on OKCPS's board? And second, what do you say to voters who might see your short tenures at past jobs and wonder, if you really intend to serve 4 years as Oklahoma City Public Schools Board Chairwoman?
Yes, that is a very good question. In creation of need, that was actually some teachers and I got together and we said that we're going to create a wonderful school. And it actually has ended up being even more than I could have ever imagined it being. It is not a conflict of interest because it is a homeschool co-op in that we have a co-op, we meet, and we meet at a church and things like that. So this is not a publicly funded school. This is not an OKCPS school. So by owning Need Solutions, it is not a conflict of interest. The success that we have seen with the students, in which many of them have actually been expelled or maybe turned away from OKCPS, and we have made great strides with them. I have 7- and 8-year-olds doing algebra and geometry, so that is good. That has been a great preparation for the next level. As to how many jobs I've had, that's really interesting because I've just been a teacher, and for a multitude of reasons. When I left Millwood, they asked me to teach reading, and I'm a math teacher. And then when I stayed at John Marshall, we'll talk about that, but my kids and things like that, because there's some very good teachers at John Marshall, and things like that. So I've just wanted to be a teacher, and that is what I've continued to do. Over there, I took a small, short break to help my family start a business. So it was not any commitment issues. I am very committed to being the Oklahoma City Public School Board Chair, and you will not be able to get rid of me, at least not like that.
Okay, Ms. Barrick, we'll bring it over to you first. For 45 seconds to respond to this, are there any conflict concerns you have about any of your opponents or your own interests?
Or of my own interests
Yes.
or my opponents?
Yes, any conflict concerns you have about any of the opponents or your own interests?
Well, not really. I mean, I think, but I'm not going to speak for them, but I'll speak for myself, and I don't see any conflicts. And as for me, I sold my business, and the reason, and my business was school improvement, school performance. I wrote curriculum, I wrote books, I wrote assessments aligned to the Oklahoma academic standards. I sold my business. I am no longer involved with the business. I do have a non-compete clause that says I won't write textbooks. I promise you, I won't write textbooks. I won't write tests. But I can train teachers, and that is one thing that I'm really passionate about, but that's not my job. But my job as the chairman of the Oklahoma City School Board is for oversight. Oversight for what they're doing, oversight for the budget, oversight for the results. We've spent millions and millions of dollars to outside companies, and we've got zero for it.
All right, Ms. Lewis, you have 45 seconds. Same question to you. Any concerns about conflict or with any of your opponents or your own interests?
Yes, I do not have any conflicts. I've managed that carefully because I do co-own a pediatric therapy company, and we do provide some services for some districts, but we do not in Oklahoma City because I cannot do that. I do wonder if Ms. Barrick has any equity left in that company, and also we do use some of that company, and so if there's any equity, she would either not be able to be the chair or we would have to quit using that, which I guess if it's the program that she's saying is the program that will change things, then that would hurt students.
Ms. Barrick, do you have any response to that? 15 or so seconds.
I have no equity in the company that I sold. There is no company that I sold. It's dissolved. So I would not have any conflict, and if you do use that product, they will be scrutinized just like any other product that we use or service that we use in the Oklahoma City Public Schools. If it's not working, we're not going to use it.
Ms. Briggs, back to you for 45 seconds. Final comment. We got a little off there, but any final comment from you?
No, it's just that all these moments have prepared me for this moment. And so I've seen from elementary to high school, I've taught at all different levels. And in many cases, it's because I was asked. So in many cases, I was asked to teach something else or to do something else. So I have a gamut of knowledge and experience as well as business experience that I'm going to bring to this district. I hold an MBA and several other degrees and things like that. So I'm going to take that time and take that knowledge and actually bring to OKCPS so that we can move this district forward.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barrick, I've got the final question of this round to start with you, 90 seconds. Your campaign website displays endorsements from community members and other politicians, and I couldn't help but notice that you have the endorsement of former House Representative Sally Kern, who for a time was Oklahoma's poster politician for anti-LGBTQ sentiment. And I was curious, and the reason for that was she had said at one point that homosexuality posed a bigger threat than terrorism. And I remember that distinctly, and I was curious, did you have any reservations in accepting her endorsement, putting that on your website? And what do you say to the LGBT community members who might consider that a red flag?
Well, first of all, I didn't know that Sally said that. And, but definitely, I think all students have the same, that everyone has the right to a quality education, an equitable education. And Sally is a friend of my friend, and I've met her, I know her, but I did not know she said that.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lewis, 45 seconds to you. Does that endorsement concern you? Does that explanation satisfy you?
Again, we're back to harmful rhetoric, right? It was a long time ago, and I'm sure the students that today don't remember that, but as a young member of the LGBTQ at that time, growing my career, it was harmful and it was hurtful, and it's the same kind of rhetoric we're seeing today. So yes, it concerns me.
Ms. Spriggs, 45 seconds to you. Same question.
I know many Republicans, and I am very concerned with that type of rhetoric. I'm going to say that. Well, I've had some strong conversations to say that you can have a difference of opinion without being nasty. You can be pro-marriage without a pro-heterosexual marriage without being nasty in the name calling. That is what, I mean, when I become board chair, I have to represent all the children of this district, and they're going to be children of multiple different household situations as well as personal situations. And so I will not allow anybody, no matter what my personal feelings is about anything, I will not allow people to be harmful to children, because in the end, we are talking about children.
Ms. Barrick, I'll go back to you, 45 seconds to kind of close out on that.
Okay, first of all, I did not say those words. I do not agree with those words, and I think that all students have the right to a good, equitable, and equal education. And when I'm chair, we will have none of that. We will have no bullying, and again, I can't apologize for Sally, but I would like to reiterate that those words did not come from my mouth.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the candidates. That concludes round 3 of this debate. Thank you. Cameron.
Well,
Oh, wait, I think I just read your line. I'm so sorry.
I was supposed to ask for the round of applause, so we'll give a second one for our great candidates.
And I think that brings us to our 90-second closing statements. We're going to go the same order that we did before, and so that means, Ms. Lewis, we'll start with you, followed by Ms. Spriggs and Ms. Barrick. Ms. Lewis, 90 seconds closing statement to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about what matters most, and it's students. Oklahoma City Public Schools only exist to educate students. I think we need to, in today's time, spend as much energy protecting them as we do educating them. When we don't protect our kids, they cannot get into their learning brain. That is fact. Let me remind you what OKCPS represents. We have 71 languages, 87 Native American tribes, 135 square miles, 40,000 meals served daily, making us one of the largest kitchens across the state when school's in session. We are a big ship. We have 5,000 employees. It takes time, strategy, and leadership to turn that ship around, but we are turning. Our graduation rates are up, but our achievement needs to go with them. Our teacher retention is up. We went down 150 certified teachers because we were able to retain more certified teachers from last school year to this school year. This is real change, and it's making a difference. There is more work to do, but the only way this momentum can be held up is through steady leadership. It is the very reason that city leaders, Mayor Holt, the Chamber, our support unions, our teachers unions are supporting me, because they understand that change can only be sustained by experienced and steady leadership. I spent 30 years building a career on entrepreneurship and occupational therapy by doing nothing more than helping others to serve. And I bring that to this role every single day. I ask for your vote on February 11th because I am the leader that can sustain the change that our district is undergoing.
Thank you very much. That's fair. If it's your candidate, go ahead. Ms. Spriggs, 90 seconds to you for a closing statement.
Well, I would say she's not the only person who could sustain that. We have made, okay, so I am Nia Spriggs. I am running to be your next OKCPS board chair. There's some people who came in, so I wanted to reintroduce myself to you all. We have made some improvements, so I'm not gonna say we haven't made any improvements, but we have not made the significant academic improvements that we need to see within OKCPS. And so that is the reason why I am that's the reason why I'm promoting a commission and things like that that will actually help us develop a long-term plan. So therefore, when we get a new superintendent and/or we get, and I don't want to say new superintendent, but if we ever had to get a new superintendent, the plan would stay in place. And so I believe that we can do a lot better in academic achievement. That is one of my single focus, in that it's academic outcomes. And so I am asking you now to think about, can we do something different? I asked the same question here a week ago, and I'm asking today, can we do something different? Can we change the way we are moving? Can we change the way we are progressing? And I would say, yes, we can. If we think outside the box, we need to be thinking about great plans and thinking about outside of the box as to how we make that movement. And so today I am coming to you. One of my models is be the change that you are seeking, and I am that change. So on February the 11th, vote Nia Spriggs, your next OKCPS board chair.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barrett, 90 seconds to close to you.
I would like to thank NonDoc again for hosting this important conversation. And again, I would like to thank the people in the audiences for taking time to come out and give your time to be involved in this conversation. Oklahoma ranks 49th in the nation in education. The Oklahoma City Public Schools ranks at the bottom of the schools in the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma City Public Schools are the bottom of the bottom. They're the worst of the worst. We don't have to settle for that. We don't have to accept that. We don't have to settle for failed leadership, broken promises, and endless conversations about and excuses why our students are not performing at grade level. We can make this change. We can make this change together. On February the 11th, you have the opportunity to end the cycle of failure and chart a new one for our students, our teachers, and our future. I'm asking your vote and your support so that we can make the change needed to the Oklahoma City Public Schools, the students, and the community. Let's take this bold choice for our students, our schools, and our community. Together, we can achieve real results for the Oklahoma City Public Schools. I'm the only person on this stage that has the solution to the problem.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barrett. Thank you all to the candidates. That concludes tonight's debate. Thank you so much to the folks at Metro Tech. Beautiful facility. Thank you to our debate series sponsors, AARP Oklahoma, the Scholar Strategy Network, and the Urban Land Institute. Remember, early voting starts February 6th. Election day is February 11th. And we'll see you 2 nights from now in Norman for the Norman mayoral debate at OU. Thank you so much. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Hey, Zach, hit my Bluetooth. Zach, hit my Bluetooth.